This is providing feedback for your first piece of coursework that you've handed in for the purpose of using Screencast-O-Matic. And the title was The Child-Driven Education. If children have interest, they will learn. This statement is very true. When a child is interested in something, they will try to learn. I have observed that students learn more outside the school, and the teachers can still be in the background to support them and let them to teach themselves on their own. We'll come back to this paragraph. You started off with inverted commas for a quote, which is very good and very true. The beginning of your sentences are all capitals. You've got your punctuation marks, which are very good. You've got the ed for the adjective, which is for the individual. A child is interested, which is very good. And you have used I have observed, present perfect that you've used for this, which is very good. So it's an ongoing thing that you have observed. Background, to support them and let them to teach themselves on their own. Now I can tell you that from here we have a little issue. In this part which I have highlighted, one of these words, one of these verbs is a modal verb, and with the modal verb we do not actually need the infinitive. So I would like you to find out which of these words is the modal verb, and then I'd like you to see if you can correct the appropriate verb that goes with the modal verb. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight this part for you, and I'd like you to take a look at that again. You've started a new paragraph. In my opinion, I think it is absolutely a good idea, because in this method the students can successfully teach themselves and at the same time teach each other new skills. You've given your opinion in this paragraph. You've started a new paragraph giving your opinion, which is very good, and it is absolutely a good idea. You've also you've given your opinion and you've given your reasoning behind your opinion, which is a very good technique we use in writing. Very good. So we can say that technology can offer for the future, but there are still so many questions that can be asked about this method, and we need to find their answers. This is very true. It's a very good paragraph that you've written there. You have tried to answer what you stated in the previous paragraph. We can say that technology can offer for the future, but you have seen some negatives in this suggestion that you're offering. The main object is motivation when we speak about learning, because without the motivation we can't do anything, and we can't impose students to learn hard in long period with good result. I'm going to go back to this paragraph again. The main object is motivation when we speak about learning, because without the motivation, you've used the motivation, so you've used the article here, and we use the because you have actually mentioned motivation before, so you're quite right to have used the article the there for motivation. We can't do anything and we can't impose students to learn hard. Now I'm going to underline this part, this phrase, because if you look closely again, you'll see that there are certain little characteristics in this sentence which basically are just the wrong way around. I'm talking about when you abbreviate, when you shorten some of the words. What you've used, I don't know if it was a slip of the hand or what it was, but it's the direction of some of the very small punctuation aspects that you might want to take a look at. Also, we can't impose students to learn. Now, you might want a different choice of vocabulary there. Impose students. Impose, if you remember, is when you impose on somebody, it means you might allow them, might give them, might enable them this feeling of uncomfort when you impose. So impose students to learn, I think you might want to use a different verb there. You might want to check your vocabulary and see if you can come up with a substitute for another verb for that sentence. To learn hard in long period with good result. Now also this part I'm going to highlight again. If you remember, when we were discussing in class, we had a rule, and we said when you have the combination of adjective and noun, we need a little something before the adjective noun. So I'd like you to take a look at this part again as well, all the parts that I've highlighted, and see what's missing. We need a certain aspect before the adjective noun, and again here, adjective noun. We need a little something here. See if you can find out what that is. Moving on to the next paragraph. Children learn much better and by themselves when they are motivated to do. If we impose students to do something which they are not interested to do that, after a period they will miss their motivation for continuous their study. Okay, so here in this paragraph you've started a new paragraph and you have given what would happen if we had this paragraph put into action. So if we, in your words, if we try and basically force students to learn, I think is what you're trying to say, then children learn much better by themselves. What you're saying is if we use this method, then there might be consequences. Okay? Children learn much better by themselves when they are motivated to do. So you might want to add a little something here. To do what? What is it you're trying to say? Okay, so I'm just going to highlight this part here just to see what it is you want to try and say here. Motivate to do something. Okay. If we impose students to do something, so again I'm going to underline this part, again relating to the previous paragraph, and I'm going to ask you to try and find out whatever you put here, substitute vocabulary, you can use here as well. If we impose, in your words, students to do something which they are not interested to do that, okay. Here we have to do something which they are not interesting. Now the subject here is people, isn't it? They, I think you're talking about children, people. And you have used this correctly previously. When you're talking about people, the adjective that you have used was correct previously, but here you may want to choose a different adjective, which they are not. So I'm going to again underline this, and I'd ask you to take a look at it again. The subject and the adjective do not match here, so you might want to look at that again. If they are not interesting to do that, after a period they will miss their motivation. Would this be the most appropriate word, do you think? Miss motivation, or is there another vocabulary you can think of? Because I think you're trying to say something else here. They will miss their motivation for continuous their study. Now again we have a rule, if you remember in class, we talked about when we have a preposition before a verb gives another change. So we can't have preposition and adjective all by itself in this sentence. Okay, so I'd like you to take a look at this as well. There is a grammatical issue here. They will, any other word, their motivation for, and then you have another word here that you need to use because of this preposition, their study. First, we have to know the children, and how can we make intrinsic and extrinsic motivation? Without this knowledge and information, we can't make a plan to do this method. So again, relating to a paragraph or two we had before, you might want to take a look at that once more. Make a plan to do this method. Just to improve your English, I'm going to ask you to think of an alternative for this word as well. If you look in your dictionary, or if you look in your notes, you might find that we actually had an alternative. We do have a better verb that we use for method or for plan instead of do. And I know you know this because I've seen it in previous work. So if you could take a look at that, see if you can come up with a more appropriate verb for that. Second, so first, second, very good. We need a lot of teachers who accept this method and believe that. If teachers don't believe this method, once again, I'm going to ask you to take a look at that, they can't work hard to show another people that we can change the old education's method. Okay, show another people. People here is plural, isn't it? So because you've got a plural noun, you might want to take a look at this word that you have here. This word and your plural noun don't correspond, so you might want to take a look at this word here, that we can change the old education's method. So we've got adjective here. Again, we've got another adjective here because your last word is a noun. And I think you might want to take a look at this word. There is a better word, basically there is another word we use for the adjective of education. Okay, now on the whole, what you've done is you've outlined a very, very good piece of work. So what I'm going to write here is your work was quite precise. You answered the question very well, so you targeted all the aspects of the question. So there is need for certain vocabulary change, shall we say, or certain vocabulary words can be substituted, which I have highlighted. So you're going to take a look at that hopefully, and you're also going to take a look at the grammar. So basically we're talking about substituting certain verbs to match the noun. We're talking about looking at adjectives when they come with the noun again. We're talking about a verb followed by a preposition. So these are what you really want to look out for when you go back and you try to correct your mistakes. But on the whole, I think it was a very, very good piece of work. You outlined your opinion, your examples, your reasoning, your arguments very well, and I'm really happy with that. Very, very good. Well done.